Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Kasi Mustafa and this is Health is Wealth. Ramadan is a month of faith, discipline and spiritual renewal. But for millions of people living with diabetes, it can also become a month of serious health risk if fasting is not managed correctly. Every year, many diabetics struggle silently. Some experience dangerous drops in blood sugar. Others face life-threatening complications simply because they are unsure whether to continue fasting or to stop. Remember, low blood sugar, sudden dizziness, and unconsciousness are not just medical terms. They are real emergency happening behind closed doors. Tonight, we confront the reality of diabetes and fasting. When is it safe? When must someone break their fast? And how can diabetic patients protect both faith and their health? To help us navigate this critical topic will be Dr. Batul Ghulam Hussein, health expert with over 10 years of experience, currently working with AAR here in Nairobi. Who is Dr. Batul?
Right. Thank you, Mustafa. Thank you for this opportunity, and I would also want to thank JamiaTv for this opportunity.
Yes.
So, as you rightly introduced me, my name is Dr. Batul Ghulam Hussein,
Yes.
and I've been a doctor for over 10 years,
Yes.
and been working with AAR Healthcare, Kenya, for the longest part of those 10 years.
Okay.
And I love what I do.
Okay.
And when you say who is actually Dr. Batul, my focus is mainly on preventive healthcare, wellness, yeah, and that is where we should all be directed to. To cure, we will cure, yes, but how can you prevent illness?
Okay, mashallah. We are here to talk about diabetes, and to our viewers back at home, you should set your seat to understand this diabetes very well, because it's not about how harmful diabetes is, but we are here to talk about how safe can you be. Inshallah, Daktari, you tell us how safe is a diabetic patient during the month of Ramadan?
So, a diabetic patient, it really depends. You know, when you say safe, yes, they're very safe if they're well controlled.
Okay.
Yeah, if their medications are well titrated to the way they're supposed to be taking them. Yeah,
Okay.
and if they are constantly doing their checkups, if they are constantly monitoring their blood sugar,
Yes.
if they're being compliant to their medications, then it is very safe for them to fast.
Okay.
Yeah.
You say they are safe based on how they check their conditions.
Yeah.
Talk about the standard sugar level of a person having diabetes. What is the standard sugar level?
So there are two ways in which you measure the blood sugar. There is either a random blood sugar,
Okay.
and the range of the random blood sugar ranges from around 3.5 millimoles per liter up to around 11.
Okay.
If they are fasting, and we are talking about 6 to 8 hours of fasting,
Okay.
then the ideal blood sugar level is from 3.5 to up to 7 millimoles per liter.
Okay.
And the best way, the three key times in which the blood sugar should be measured.
Okay.
Number one, during suhoor.
Okay.
Yeah. Number two, during midday, and just before iftar.
People are having so very many issues out there. You will find someone using different types of food. We started with iftar because, of course, it's the holy month of Ramadan. But now someone might ask, what are the most causes of diabetes?
Diabetes is a multifactorial disease,
Okay.
just the same way high blood pressure is also multifactorial. So the causes of both are interrelated.
Okay.
And one of the biggest factors which causes diabetes is obesity and lack of physical activity, coupled with the fact that there is poor nutrition. So there is a lot of reliance on junk food, too much of sugary food intake, yeah, too much of reliance on starch and carbohydrates, yeah. You find people very big fans of chips or fast food, yeah, and these are usually the candidates who either develop obesity and then there is no exercise, there is no physical activity they're doing. So now this eventually now leads to spikes in blood sugar. So basically diabetes is when now the insulin production in the body is reduced such that the amount of sugar you are giving the body, it is not able to metabolize or rather to absorb, yeah, in simple words. Yeah. So other factors which cause diabetes, hereditary, genetic, yeah. So if you have one of your parent who is diabetic or hypertensive, then you have a 50% chance of developing it. So it's very important that you don't bridge the gap of the other 50% by making sure you take care of your exercise regime at least 30 minutes every day. Every day at least dedicate 30 minutes to proper exercise. And by definition, exercise should have three things which happen. So you must sweat. Your heart rate must increase. And you must be breathing heavily. Otherwise, that is not called exercise.
We have to go slow. First, you must sweat. Your heartbeat must increase.
Yes.
And you must
breathing rate.
Your breathing rate must increase.
Exactly. Yes.
We talk about insulin. So what is insulin when it comes to diabetes?
So insulin is basically produced by our pancreas. And what it does is it helps for the cells to absorb the blood sugar which the body has taken in. So you take a meal, there is blood glucose released, and then now it is absorbed by the body with the help of insulin. Now, pretty much the body is actually producing insulin for you. But what happens is when now you've been taking too much sugary foods or too much starch, that a point reaches that now the insulin production is not enough for the amount of sugars you are giving the body. And that is when now the amount of blood sugar in the blood remains higher than normal.
Now for the person who have diabetes, at what point do you advise them not to fast? At what point do you advise them to break their fast? And at what time do you advise them to keep on with their fast?
So as long as they are well controlled, they are not having any signs and symptoms of what I am about to say next regarding low blood sugar, then they are good to fast, yeah. But the ideal candidates who should not fast are the type 1 diabetics. Because there is type 1 and type 2. Type 2 is the more common one, or rather the lifestyle related one, yeah, which people get with obesity and lack of physical activity, etc. But the people who should not fast are those who have comorbidities, yeah, either kidney disease, chronic kidney disease, or kidney failure. Those who have developed heart disease because of that, or they are having an acute illness related to the diabetes, probably maybe a diabetic foot, for example. But the key ones are hypoglycemia, and the symptoms of hypoglycemia is when now the sugars are going low, shaking, trembling, yeah. Sweating out, yeah, they suddenly break out into a sweat, confusion, dizziness, palpitations, when you feel like your heart is beating very fast. Like, you know, normally you cannot feel your heart, but now this is a point whereby you are seated, but you can actually feel your heart is beating very fast. And now together with all that dizziness, sweating, and you can actually go and become unconscious if you don't break the fast immediately. My advice would be diabetics should always own a blood sugar machine. So that it's very important that you immediately check, because for a lay person it may be very difficult to differentiate between a high and a low blood sugar. Yeah, so the cold, clammy hands, they start feeling cold and all that. It's important to check and at least know how you're doing.
This is one of the fasts that comes either once a year, or there is those people who fast twice a week. But now I want to understand, how does fasting increase the metabolism of the body, or the insulin and all that?
So basically when you're not eating, you are now using up the nutrients which you already have, the protein mass, the fat, you start breaking down those to release energy. Yeah, so that actually helps with overall heart health, etc.
For those people who are who are using, I remember you talked about excessive use of starch, excessive use of sugar, excessive use of, especially the manufactured one, the processed one. Now I want to understand, how does carbohydrates affect people having diabetes?
Yes, so carbohydrate is basically starch, and starch is broken down into sugars.
Okay.
Yeah, so eventually it is still sugar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can fasting be dangerous
To the diabetics?
to the diabetics? Yes.
Not really, not if they're well controlled, not if they're taking their medications, maybe adjusted ones for those who are on insulin. But for those who are taking oral tablets, yeah, they will simply switch to suhoor time and iftar time.
Okay.
Yeah, so just before iftar they'll take the medication, so that as they eat, the medication is helping absorb the sugar with the help of insulin through the medication. Yeah.
I once experienced a patient who was diabetic, and she eventually lost her sight. Why? What might be the causes of her sight getting lost?
So when the sugars are not well controlled, okay, and now this is part of complications of diabetes.
Okay.
It basically goes and affects the smaller blood vessel areas, what we call end organ damage, okay, or microvascular diseases. And part of this includes also even kidney damage, yeah, because the vessels of the eyes, the kidneys are very tiny. So when you have either blood sugar either coating the vessels, yeah, and then the blood transmission is not as efficient, it ends up damaging the end organ, which is now the eyes or the kidneys, like that. Yeah.
When we fast, mostly we use a lot of dates, and dates is rich in so very many nutrients, but again it's rich in a lot of sugars, which is a natural sugar. Maybe for a patient who is diabetic, what do you have to tell them?
So my message to diabetics is, it's not like you're not allowed to take sugar. Okay, you are, as long as you are within your limit and everything you do and take is in moderation. Okay, of course such a diabetic cannot indulge and say I'm going to eat so many dates, but one date, they say we take 1, 3 or is it 7? Yeah,
Whichever,
yeah,
yes.
in Islam,
In
but
odd
then
numbers, yes.
in odd numbers. So 1 is not bad, it's not harmful. They should take at least, when they're breaking the fast, they can take 1 date. Yeah.
So we talked about starch, protein, we've already talked about processed sugars. What are other type of foods that might increase the sugar level of a diabetic patient?
So mainly it is the sugar and starch, yeah, but protein not so much, yeah, it actually is beneficial, yeah.
Okay.
We also don't advise a lot of fatty food for diabetics, yeah. Remember, one of the comorbidities of diabetes is heart problems, yeah. So again, fatty food and then getting heart attacks, the risk of getting a heart attack is very high. So we always advise a balanced nutritional meal.
Okay.
Yeah, a plate which has enough vegetables, a quarter of the plate is filled with starch, yeah, a quarter is filled with protein, yeah, and you actually, diabetics can actually even have fruits, 1 slice of fruit a day.
Okay.
Remember, not a whole bowl, not the whole fruit, but a slice of fruit for a diabetic in a day is enough to give them their vitamins. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, before we take a short break, I want us to understand the risk factors for diabetes.
So risk factors of diabetes, we talked about genetics and hereditary factors, yeah. So if you have a parent, then you should be regularly checking your blood sugar and also making sure you are taking care of exercise, etc. Then of course now alcohol, for those who take alcohol, yeah. Number 2, those people who are obese, they really need to work on their weight, either see a nutritionist, either they need to now work on exercising, yeah. So obesity and poor diet, yeah, a diet rich in sugary foods, a diet rich in fast foods, yeah. Exercise, again, I keep going back to exercise because that usually forms the gist of everything.
Okay.
Most of us who are working, we are seated almost 8 to 10 hours in a day.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's very important that there is at least some physical activity because those form the basis of risk factors of developing diabetes. In ladies, there's something called gestational diabetes.
Okay.
It's diabetes which they develop at around 24 weeks of pregnancy, and then after the delivery it goes away.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's something worth mentioning, that even in ladies you can actually get diabetes while they're pregnant. That also forms like a risk factor for developing it later on in life, so that's also one of the things to watch out for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Daktari. I want us to take a very short break, because when we come back, we'll talk about different types of diabetes, the stages of diabetes, and to help our viewers back home understand how safe they are, especially during this holy month of Ramadan. Wherever you are, our ladies and gentlemen, our viewers back at home, stay back and relax, because a lot will be discussed in this show. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. This is the second segment of Health is Wealth. My name is Kasi Mustafa, and in studio I have Dr. Batul, who is talking about diabetes. Daktari, we left when we were talking about most common conditions that diabetic people have or experience. So at this time I want us to talk about the stages of diabetes.
Okay, so there are two ways in which you can describe the stages of diabetes. There are those who are either on medications, so what we call the non-insulin dependent.
Okay.
And then there are those who are insulin dependent. Okay. So the non-insulin dependent diabetics. Now these are the people who still have some insulin reserves.
Okay.
All right, and all they need is medications to help the pancreas to produce some insulin to help with the absorption of the blood glucose.
Okay.
And these people primarily are on tablets.
Okay.
Okay. So they may be on one medication. They may be on one medication which is twice a day, thrice a day, depending on what they have, or they may be on 2 or 3 different types of medication. Then we have insulin dependent. Now these ones need insulin. Okay. And in many of the type 2 diabetics, you may also see that they are not only just taking insulin injections,
okay,
but they are also using tablets.
Okay.
All right. So it's like a mix. But now those are what we call insulin dependent. Now these are people whose insulin and their blood sugar control is not being efficiently managed with just tablets.
Okay.
Yeah. So they need now those insulin injections. And taking insulin injections is not easy.
Okay.
Yeah, and that is why we always tell diabetics that in as much as you are on medication, that is not a free pass that you can eat anything. Yeah, you still have to be very careful of your diet. Yeah, be very careful of how you manage your lifestyle.
Okay.
Yeah, your exercise regimes, everything, because compliance is becoming a biggest issue with diabetics and even hypertensives. Most patients feel that they don't have that many symptoms, therefore they don't, we call these diseases silent killers. Yeah,
Sure.
And that is why they feel that no, if I don't take medications it's fine, and that is how you move from one stage to insulin dependent stage. Yeah.
Being on medication doesn't mean you can eat anything. What are these types of foods that a diabetic patient needs to avoid?
So the first and foremost is sugary foods.
Okay.
And when we talk about sugar, we are talking about sugar in tea, direct sugar.
Okay.
Okay. Number two, now we are looking at things like desserts, because that's full of sugar.
Okay.
Yeah, desserts, chocolates, we're talking about biscuits, and the most lethal one, soda. Soda has a lot of sugar in it.
Okay.
Yeah, even when it comes to fruits, yeah, everything in moderation. I mean, banana can spike your sugar very fast. Yeah, but how many bananas is someone taking?
Okay.
You see, one banana a day, fair enough. But if you're going to be taking so many in a day, then that is going to cause increase in sugars.
Okay.
Initially, in the previous episode, we talked about the dates, honey.
Yes. Honey.
Yeah, that still has sugar. Remember, those are all sucrose. Sucrose, and the ones found in fruit, we call them fructose. Yeah. So at the end of the day, what we advise is everything in moderation. If you must take honey, to the measure of 1 teaspoon. Yeah, not more than that. Okay. If it's dates, we talked about 1 to 3 dates in a day. Yeah. Direct sugar, if you can avoid it, the better. Okay. Another fruit they should also be careful for other than bananas is also sugar cane, because that also is a lot of sugar, right? Okay. Yeah. So you have to be very careful. But like I told you earlier, for diabetics, eating a dark chocolate is not harmful.
All right.
Yeah, one small piece. You know, you don't have to take the whole chocolate. You don't have to take several pieces, but one small, the tablet of the chocolate, yeah, especially dark chocolate, is not harmful. Yeah, it actually will help them. Yeah, and you see, for diabetics, we should not crucify them that they cannot take, any chocolate or anything. But what they should watch out for is things like ice creams, desserts, soda. Yeah, that they should be very careful of.
What about pineapple? Because pineapple is also rich in sugar.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and yes, to some degree you are very right. Even that, in fact, all fruits have fructose in it. Okay. But like we said, for a diabetic, it should be 1 slice of fruit a day. Yeah, there should be no moderation. It has to be is the key word here. Okay. Yeah, nothing should go over and above. So if we say a slice of pineapple a day is enough. Okay. Yeah, that will not harm them. Okay. But if they decide to eat a whole bowl, now that is taking it to another level. Yeah.
Oh, mashallah. Thank you so much. Now, for someone who is watching us now, he or she just switched on the TV and he found this conversation, diabetes. How does someone know that he or she is diabetic?
Yeah, I think it's very important to discuss that the signs and symptoms of diabetes. To be honest, 50% of patients usually don't know they're diabetic until either they present with a complication, which is very serious. 50% is a huge number. Yeah, so look out for things like fatigue, feeling tired all the time. Yeah, headaches. And then weight loss. And when we talk about weight loss, we're talking about unintentional weight loss. Yeah, meaning you are not doing anything to cause that weight loss. You are not exercising, and suddenly you start feeling like your clothes are not fitting. You've started losing weight. You need to check. Okay. Remember, weight loss is not just exclusive to diabetes. Okay. Even thyroid diseases can cause weight loss. Even cancers can cause weight loss. Yeah, but if you feel that you are losing weight and it is not something you are doing intentionally, your diet has not changed, you are eating the same foods, you are not exercising, nothing much has changed, but you're losing weight, then you need to look out for that. Okay. There's something we call the 3 classical signs of diabetes, and the first one is increased hunger. Okay. You eat, after a while you feel hungry. Half an hour, 30-40 minutes, you're hungry again. Okay. Yeah. Now, it's a very vague symptom. I mean, many of my viewers are probably watching, they're like, oh my, I also feel hungry all the time. Yeah. So it's not the only symptom. But if you find that you're feeling excessively hungry, together with weight loss, and then together with feeling tired, and then we go to the second classical symptom, which is increased thirst. Now, increased thirst again is also very vague. Yeah, I mean, someone living in a place like Garissa or Mombasa where it's very hot, yes, you feel excessive thirst. Yeah, and that is why our focus is usually do a check. Always regularly do an annual medical checkup where you are checking on your blood sugar. Yeah. The last sign of, or rather the third sign, we call excessive urination. Okay. such a person will find themselves waking up to around 3 to 4, even 5 times in a night.
Okay.
Yeah, they find themselves urinating every now and then. So when you see this 3 triad, excessive hunger, excessive thirst, excessive urination, you need to check for blood sugar. Remember, excessive urination, like I told you about the other 2, can happen in other conditions also. Like someone with a urine infection will still have increased urination or frequency of urinating. Men with prostate problems will also have that. But you have to be very careful in how you categorize the 3 symptoms, yeah, and how often you are always regularly checking your blood sugar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how regular you've just talked about checking regularly your blood sugar. You've talked about the 3 stages of signs and symptoms of diabetes. Either excessive, you just find yourself eating excessively, excessive thirst, and excessive urination. All the time you want to be in in a latrine.
Yeah.
So maybe how often should someone be checking his blood sugars?
So by the time you hit 30, okay, it's important that every year you are checking your blood sugar.
Okay.
And when you're checking your blood sugar, just because you don't have a problem, you just want to know, yeah, because it's a lifestyle disease. It is once a year. Okay, once a year, make sure you check your fasting blood sugar level. Now, someone who is, say, I have a family history, maybe my mom or dad is diabetic, yeah, and maybe my weight is on the higher side,
Okay.
yeah, then maybe twice a year is important to check, yeah, especially as you hit 40. So as you hit 40, you have a family history of diabetes, maybe your weight is also not on your side, yeah, then it's important that at least you check twice a year. Someone who is pre-diabetic, okay, now initially you had asked me about stages of diabetes, yeah, so it's either you're diabetic or you're pre-diabetic. Okay, now pre-diabetic is someone, remember we had said the levels of blood sugar? We said fasting blood sugar normal is 3.5 up to 7. But anyone who is from 5.5 up to 7 is still within normal, but we categorize them as pre-diabetic.
Okay.
Now such a person needs to also measure something we call the long-term sugar marker. It's called the glycosylated hemoglobin.
Okay.
You may have heard of HbA1c.
Yes.
Now that tells you your 3-month control.
Okay.
In the last 3 months, how has your control of sugar been? Yeah, it's like a predictive value.
Okay.
It tells you, is there a risk of you developing diabetes soon? In the next 1 or 2 years, what is going to be the outcome? Remember? So such a person should ideally check their blood sugar at least 2 to 3 times a year, making sure they're also keeping an eye on the HbA1c.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is this thing we call hyper what? It is the stage where the diabetic level is too high. So you talked about the normal blood sugar is between 5 to
3.5
up to 7
for fasting.
For fasting person. So what is this level of hyper?
So anyone who is above that 7 if they're fasting, or ideally for random blood sugar which goes up to 11, yeah, so 3.5 up to 11. So anyone having a blood sugar of above 11. Now most of the time hyperglycemia, we are looking at patients who are either not on medication or diabetics who have had a spike, and it may go even up to 20, 30 or even unrecordable. By the way, we've seen patients in our facility who come and the machine cannot read. It just says hi. Yeah, it just says hi. And that is usually bad because this person might probably be unconscious. Yeah. And we have hyperglycemic coma, and we have something called diabetic ketoacidosis. Now that is a very dangerous condition. Okay, we call it DKA. Very frequently when you are in a hospital, you will hear the words, this person that is in DKA.
Decay.
Now decay is now when your body is even, the sugar is so high that you're actually releasing ketones in your urine, okay, which is a sign of metabolic dysfunction.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to get too technical, but basically metabolic dysfunction, yeah, caused by the excessive spike in the blood sugar. Yeah, so there are different ways of treating the blood sugar, yeah, and it can be well managed within a hospital setting.
Okay,
yeah.
You talked about some of the conditions that you've experienced at your facility. Is there any other common challenge that you've experienced? And two, you've also talked about getting unconscious. So if, for instance, someone who is diabetic and he or she is fasting, what should a family member, friends do? What are the steps that they should do immediately after they find this person have gone unconscious?
Thank you for asking. It's a very important question because it's a common heard story that is diabetic, is collapsed, give a soda. You know, yeah, but you see, you don't know whether the sugar is low or high.
Okay.
So the first thing they should do is measure the blood sugar.
Okay.
Yeah, it takes seconds. Yeah, you just remove the strip. The machine is usually there with them. Yeah, and you measure the blood sugar. If you can't measure the blood sugar, rush them to the hospital immediately.
Okay. Because
you don't know if the sugar is high and you end up giving a soda, you will cause more harm than good. Yeah, you'll only be lucky if the sugar is low.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's important to rush them to the hospital. And even when we see unconscious patients, yeah, usually most people who come in unconscious, either the relative doesn't even know that this person is diabetic, or maybe they were found by the roadside and someone doesn't know that they're diabetic, you know. And the first thing we do is part of the emergency response is check the blood sugar. Yeah.
MashaAllah. Now you said you find them on the floor. Then the first thing is to give them a soda. Is there any stereotype or myths and misconceptions about diabetic people that you've had?
Yes. They say that you know, if you're diabetic, you can actually give it to someone. Well, it's really not. I don't know if it's a myth, but we would label it as a myth because yes, it is hereditary.
Yes.
But you cannot like pick it from someone. Yes. You know, like if I'm seated next to a diabetic, I'm not really going to get it from them. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's the famous myth. Or give them a sweet or a soda, which I told you it's not a good idea. Yeah.
So diabetic is not communicable. That is what you're sending to the people.
In fact, it is part of what we call the non-communicable diseases.
Right.
Yeah. And it's becoming the leading cause of death in Kenya and even other parts of the world.
Tell us about it. What is the rate of the people, basically, what is the rate of the people who are affected by diabetic so far?
Well, I don't have the recent statistic, but I would tell you that about 850 million, that's the last I remember, people are affected by diabetes, and 50% of those who have diabetes don't even know that they're diabetic.
50%
yes, doesn't know they're diabetic, yes. And that is why you find that majority of the patients who come with a complication.
Okay.
You either find someone is having a foot sore, which is not healing. They don't know they're diabetic because you see those symptoms we talked about earlier, not everyone will be having them. Yeah, not everyone will be having or coming with them. Or they will come with numbness of the foot. That is usually very classical. You find patients come and they tell you that nasikia nimekufa ganze kwa miguu.
Ama mguu imefura tu.
Ama hata nasikia imewaka moto.
Yes.
Nasikia hapo kwa chini on the soles, nasikia inawaka moto.
Yes.
Yeah. Now those are some of the classic. Of course, like I told you, it's not exclusive to diabetes.
Okay.
There are other nerve conditions also which can do that. But they present with a complication. And because diabetes affects the nerves, then eventually when they are walking and they maybe hit or bang their foot against maybe a table, a small kidonda kadogo, it leads to amputation of the full leg. Because hiyo kidonda sasa, because the blood supply in diabetics is compromised because of the sugar coating the vessels, you find that the healing of the wound is compromised. And when the wound doesn't heal, the diabetes gets worse, it causes more problems, and the infection keeps spreading.
Okay.
And one thing about diabetes is the relationship of diabetes with infection.
Okay.
When someone has an infection, the sugars usually spike out of control.
Okay.
And as the sugars spike out of control, it's a vicious cycle. It refuses to heal the infection.
Okay.
So you can see how it, it becomes like a vicious cycle,
Yeah.
and you have to work hard to monitor and control the sugar for the infection to heal.
Very true.
Yeah.
Now, sasa tufanyaje? Mtu ako nyumbani, he's not diabetic, anataka kupona, hataki kuwa affected na diabetic. Tufanyaje ili tusikuwe na diabetic?
So the first and foremost, if you are already not diabetic, then the message is develop or adopt a healthy lifestyle.
Okay.
But if you're already diabetic, then you need your checkup, you need to make sure you're on medications. And most of the time, that stigma,
Okay.
that now I will have to take medications for life. And I think it's very important that we mention that diabetes is one of those diseases where the medication is every day of your life. It's not something you're going to take for a week like antibiotics. Yeah, you have to take it every day of your life. Yeah, and there are various new drugs out there. Yeah, so as long as your physician has evaluated you, has seen your control, and then also your own initiatives. Yeah, how well you are managing your diet at home. Yeah, how much starch do you take in a day? Yeah, if this is your plate, then only a quarter should be starch.
Yes.
Remember what we said, a diabetic should not exempt from eating carbohydrates.
Yes.
Because you need for energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. You cannot survive only on protein or so. Yeah. So that also now all that comes together to form the basis of what kind of medication this person is going to need. Yeah, and how much they will be taking. Of course, there is a lot of monitoring which is required. Initially, there are frequent trips to the hospital, to the doctor to see, how the medications are taking this person, yeah, side effects, etc. And majority of the time, you can manage it very well with medication only. Yeah.
So that means diabetes is curable. Is it curable?
No, it's manageable. It's
manageable.
managed. Yeah.
Okay.
Of course, we hope one day we will get to the cure.
Inshallah, inshallah. Ladies and gentlemen, we are told that diabetes is only manageable. So when you are home, make sure that you observe healthy eating, exercise, and through doing this, you will be able to manage your diabetes and your sugar levels back at home. So I'll give this 1 minute to Daktari to give us her parting shot. Then we'll call it a day, inshallah. We'll tell you the next topic that we will discuss in the next week. So Daktari, what is your parting shot?
My parting shot is health is in your hands. Yeah, it's in our own hands.
Yes.
Yeah, and just the way you usually service your car.
Okay.
Yeah, regularly. Ikifika mileage, umepeleka service.
Yes.
Here you go for that wellness checkup just to get to know how is your sugar, how is your liver, how is your kidney. Don't fear.
Okay.
Don't fear. Do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, health is your greatest possession. Health is in your hands. So you have all the rights to take care of your body well. Make sure that you eat healthy, you observe a healthy sleep, and you also observe regular exercise. Until next time, I'll be having Daktari to talk about hypertension in our next episode of this Health is Wealth. My name is Kasi Mustafa. Until next time, Masalam.